And I think that's what Unrivaled did. If that was my first ever live Unrivaled game, I haven't been in the studio to watch the games down in Miami, but that was the first time. And if you took somebody and that was their first time ever watching Unrivaled, they would think it would be a league that literally rivals WNBA and the other professional leagues. That's what it felt. It felt professional. It felt exciting. And I had a whole lot of fun, man. You couldn't tell me that that wasn't like open run at the park, best team wins, and we were just going at it. Like it felt, it had the ambiance of an all-star game where they were playing for real. Because you're seeing all the stars of the WNBA and women's hoops all in one location, playing on mixed teams, just going at it, man. I thought it was
top journalists and authors to rising influencers and insiders. Hoopsology brings you the voices driving basketball forward. With elite guests and sharp analysis, Matt, Justin, and Alan keep you plugged into everything hoops. From downtown, boom shakalaka.
That is women's hoops.
Yes.
And before we kind of look forward to just the WNBA, we cover all of women's basketball, and that includes Unrivaled. And I think this has been a huge story, not only in just the world of women's basketball, but just sports in general. So you attended the game in the Barclays Center, and I saw your coverage with Dexter Henry overall. So what was just your experience with Unrivaled just in the Barclays Center? Can you compare it to other sporting events, other New York Liberty games? How was that for you, just seeing Unrivaled taken from just a kind of studio environment into an actual arena with tons of fans and a sellout?
Yeah, there's nothing like taking a studio show on the road. It automatically becomes elevated by the crowd, by the arena. It scales up in importance when you put it on a proper platform. It's similar to NXT, WWE's developmental league. They wrestle in Orlando in the Performance Center. They have their own studio, their own setup where it's real intimate, a great place to like build future stars and work on your game. But when they come to Madison Square Garden or the theater in Madison Square Garden, or they go on the road to these different arenas, when they're traveling along with the WrestleMania crew, you put those people in the bigger arenas and it just feels more important. It feels more urgent, and it exponentially grows with the spectacle. And I think that's what Unrivaled did. If that was my first ever live Unrivaled game, I haven't been in the studio to watch the games down in Miami, but that was the first time. And if you took somebody and that was their first time ever watching Unrivaled, they would think it would be a league that literally rivals WNBA and the other professional leagues. That's what it felt. It felt professional. It felt exciting. And I had a whole lot of fun, man. You couldn't tell me that that wasn't like open run at the park, best team wins, and we were just going at it. Like it felt, it had the ambiance of an all-star game where they were playing for real. Because you're seeing all the stars of the WNBA and women's hoops all in one location, playing on mixed teams, just going at it, man. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting part of it too, is that the format of it lends to that kind of just going all out at it, because you're not spending a lot of time like on the bench or anything like that. It's fast paced. It also, I think, harkens back to many of us growing up, playing at the park, because it was very rare, at least when I was growing up, it was very rare to get a full court experience at the park. Usually had to pick a hoop and and play 3-on-3. What about that do you think resonates with the fan base? I know I just talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to get your kind of take on that too.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is spot on, because when you bring it to the everyday person level, you establish a connection and they're able to relate to the game. You don't have to be a professional athlete to relate to 3-on-3 hoops or pick up hoops of any kind. And 3-on-3 is one of the essences. Like you mentioned, there will be times, especially if you were of a certain age, you're not getting on the full court. That's for the big kids. That's where the big boys play. Like, you're not getting on the full court, so you better run your 3-on-3s. And sometimes they were more fun. Sometimes they were even more challenging, depending on how long you stayed on the court, what you played to, what score you played to, and whatnot. So I think bringing that essence of street ball to a professional league is automatically going to ingratiate you with the fans that you are connecting with. And women's hoops is just completely exploding. It is a beast that has been uncaged and now is running rampant throughout the sports world in the best ways possible. And I think with the 3-on-3 format, I didn't even know. I was so enthralled with the game. People were putting me on to little nuances about the competition. Like, for example, I didn't realize that the court is smaller than the WNBA court. So it lends itself to the fast-paced nature of the games. Plus, they were letting them play. Like, I'm sitting courtside and I'm like, damn, that's a foul. This a foul. The other one is a foul. And it was endearing to me that these women were able to play physical hoops without whistles bogging down the flow of the matchup. So I think those elements are super relatable to the everyday hooper, to the casual hooper, and to the fans, because you have a unique gimmick with the 3-on-3. You have high-level athletes, and you putting it on a major stage. Like, to me, at this point, they can't go back. Like, yeah, you could be in the studio for most of the regular season, but I feel like their playoffs, they should be traveling the entire playoffs. They should travel during the season, and once we get to the quarters, hit the road and maybe put the finals in different arenas every year. I think they have enough proof of concept to make it happen, you know?
Yeah, you took the next question out of my mouth, and you brought up NXT. That's interesting, and because I feel like I'm a huge wrestling fan, so you caught my ears when you brought that up, and I feel like
I see Jushin in the background. I know your vibes.
Oh yeah. I see with NXT, like, sometimes they have a full road schedule. Sometimes they kind of push it back to the performance centers. Can I mix of both? And even if you see with the UFC, they still do the Apex cards with, like, that has no energy to it. It's boring to watch. So I'm just wondering, with Unrivaled, do you think that they will, to your best of estimation, do you feel like they pull the trigger on a lot more on the road games, because there's that temptation of just saving money and just keeping in that kind of in studio feel, where, like you were saying, I feel like that'd be a mistake, especially towards proof of concept. You're like, exactly like you were saying, they can get a sellout in these big arenas, especially when there's no women's hoops, there's no competition, the NBA season's not going on, so they have full occupation of that space, besides college basketball.
Exactly. So, I think, Justin, you hit the nail right on the head. It's all about the costs, the cost saving. You want them on the road 24/7, they're going to need another round of VC. They're going to probably have to increase those prices. They're going to need a bunch of investors. They're going to have a business case to be able to go on the road, because I don't know what their ultimate profit margin would be. Like, it's cool to say, hey, we sold out the Barclays, but what is your margins looking like? Did you break even? Did you make a significant profit? Did you make enough of a profit that would justify you traveling routinely to these games? Because the other, I won't call it an issue, but it is the next level they have to solve for, right? That there's just the circumstance. I was just say that a development area is developing these rivalries, because the rivalries aren't tied to cities and areas. You just have fans that are there rooting for their favorite players. There are some fans that are like, yeah, Breeze is my team, Mist is my team. But you don't get that automatic connection that you do when we say, for example, when the Valkyries came through. All right, Bay Area, this is our squad. Everybody else is against us. I don't care if there's my favorite players on this team. You not on the Valkyries, it's everybody versus us. You don't really get that with Unrivaled yet. And it's difficult to build those rivalries when you don't have a natural connection to your teams that are next to you, that you can build that build that rivalry, build that matchup, and really get the how do you say it? Like, there's gotta be some hate, right? You gotta fuel. It's gotta be fueled by hate, fueled by passion, fueled by competitive hunger. that you want to beat this other team. That's the main thing that they have to solve for. But in terms of going on the road, I think for now, you're probably in the next, depending on where it goes with Unrivaled, you're going to see majority of the season's going to be in Miami because it's the most cost effective. But I do think they're going to expand their road show, which they should, and get more of a proof of concept, see if they're actually making a profit, and then make it happen from there.
Well, yeah, and it kind of so I mean, staying in Miami makes it like a destination, right? So, people can go to Miami, catch a game, go to the beach, go to the clubs, whatever people get up to in Miami. But they could do that with the same on the road, if they put it in the right places and advertise it ahead of time, particularly if you go to the large cities. But I mean, I, I think they would have to kill if they put something up in like Iowa City or Des Moines, just because it's such a hotbed of Midwest basketball, particularly for women's basketball.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, particularly if Caitlin Clark was playing for them or something like that. That would be a big draw for the Midwest for sure. Um, I think putting something in Baton Rouge or New Orleans and having Angel Reese, play
Yeah,
would
the
be
college towns. I hear that.
yeah, just something to kind of really. I mean, that could be a huge like I don't know, like a destination. Like people always look to go travel, to go to concerts and go visit places. So I don't know what are kind of the next steps if you're looking at them staying in Miami. What are the next steps to kind of build those rivalries? Because I like what you're saying about that. Like, and I think about like I know in my head, and it doesn't help. You got the cool Miles poster back there. I'm thinking DC versus Marvel, right? Those aren't location based, unless you're thinking Brooklyn versus Metropolis. But
Right.
what are some things that they could do? Do you think to kind of build that and to build that destination vacation kind of thing for
Well,
Unrivaled?
they kind of have destination in the box with Miami, right? So the locale is there. They've made it. This is unrivaled country, right? That's what it is. I think they should create divisions. That's how you're gonna build a natural rivalry. One, they need to create divisions. Then after that, they're going to have to make it incentivized to have those type of like you're kind of gonna have to manufacture a rivalry, have those divisions, highlight those divisional games. The cores of the teams should remain the same because if you just mix it up and there's different players, you're gonna lose the spirit of rivalry because the teams themselves are not established entities yet to where I will root for the Mist no matter who's on the team. Unrivaled kind of builds itself towards having uh stars on the team that people can root for. And it's like, yo, if you're a Page fan, if you're an Angel fan, if you're a Stewie fan, you already have a built-in fandom with wherever they play, which makes it easier. But eventually, people are gonna have to be tied to these teams. I know we're in the era of the player fan in the NBA, but a majority of those fan bases are supported by people who support the team first. And I think that's the next level they have to get to.
So, what were your other impressions of Unrivaled Season 2? Did anything else stand out to you in terms of things that are improved upon from the inaugural season and things that should be implemented in their next edition?
Yeah, I like the Elam ending where they set to the certain score that when you win. I think a change they need to bring in is the game cannot end on a free throw. The game should end on a field goal. If you hit the Elam ending number, then it's next basket wins. Basket. So, of course, you're probably going to have to institute some type of rules so that people don't try to gamify the fouling. So all we got to do is just keep fouling you if it's next basket wins. So it's like, yeah, if you foul like 5 straight times, then maybe it's like they go to the one-on-one format. Think about old school penalty in hockey. You foul 5 straight times in a row or 3 straight times in a possession, we're going to do the one-on-one competition. They pick their one, you pick your defender, and we're going to let them go at it one possession. You get a clear one-on-one bucket. If you miss, like kind of like a penalty shot too, in soccer. You miss, we'll run the possession again, right? Like that's kind of where you would do it. Where if you're trying to deliberately foul or you're trying to extend the game, then you cause a penalty every few fouls or whatever, however they're going to do it, and then we go one-on-one for that basket. I think that would help a lot. I definitely think that would help a lot.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I think they'd have to set something up though, because you're absolutely correct. I could see somebody just fouling every time and turning it into a slog. I wanted to shift gears just a little bit because one thing I noticed with Unrivaled, and it was across all the basketball, all the major basketball sports, was the spate of injuries. And I just wanted to get kind of your take on what's driving what to I don't know, casual onlookers looks to be a lot of injuries of major names in the past year.
You know, it's funny, talking to a few friends and colleagues about this, about how it feels like there's a lot of ACL tears in women's sports. I don't know what the origins are. I have no answers, but it's just I'm noticing, right? There's a lot of ACL tears. I don't know if it's from high usage. I don't know if there's a way that they're training across these sports that lends itself to a high frequency of ACL injury, but I do think a lot of it has to do with overuse. You know, they played in the WNBA, then they're coming right out of it and going into Unrivaled, and some may be playing with injuries from previous seasons and pushing it into an Unrivaled season. And you see, they're quick to shut down a team. I mean, shut down a player. They're quick to shut down a player if they have an injury. Oh well, Aaliyah Boston. Oh well, no more Aaliyah this season. I got a lower leg injury because they will get gearing up for the WNBA season. So I don't know because I don't think Unrivaled has that grueling of a schedule where you can point to it and say, "Hey, they're playing too much." Um, it's something that's definitely going to be worth studying. I wonder if kids are playing too much of one sport when they're coming up. I don't think enough cross training, and this is a anecdote. I don't know for sure, and I'm open to being corrected. From what I hear, especially with basketball, they're playing basketball year round. You playing AAU, you playing organized, whether it's your school, you playing on traveling teams. You don't get a break from basketball. Whereas athletes back in the day, they were playing basketball and football. They were playing basketball and track. They were playing or baseball. They were playing multiple sports that put emphasis on different muscles and different parts of the body, where you could get a total usage as opposed to concentrated uses on the same knee ligaments and arm ligaments and joints that you need for basketball. And you know, I'm not a PhD in kinesiology, right? But I feel like when you are able to cross train, your body's more durable. So that's something I would really like people to dig into is the lack of cross training creating ticking time bombs within all of these athletes to where eventually they get an injury from eventual overusage. It's kind of like the adage with baseball where I remember back in the day they would say pitchers at some point should just get Tommy John. Like just get it at some point because it's going to come for you. At one point or another, you're gonna have to need the Tommy John surgery. So maybe you should just get it 1 year. Take a year off, just get it so that you're repaired and you meet it. You head it off at the pass, right? Like, and that was before MLB and the whole culture of pitchers, where you go past 6 innings, they think you're going to turn into a pumpkin. So you know, I do think that the overusage prior to becoming a professional should be studied.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I was watching the Winter Olympics and they did a whole thing on Sweden and how everybody, all the kids in Sweden do all the winter sports. They just, and none of it is competitive until they turn like 12 or 13 when they start to specialize at that point. But their first 12 years, they're skiing, they're ice skate, they're doing like all of it, just a combination, and they're just having fun. And I think sometimes we've lost sight of that here in the States with just that focus on, uh, my kid's got to get a scholarship. My kid's got to, it doesn't help that college has become unaffordable. And that's for a lot of
Uh,
people, that's the
I was
only
gonna say
way.
fair play. I get it.
Yeah. So it's interesting you brought that up. So about the overuse and the cross training. So, yeah. Um, I think when I look at that stuff, I think about like, the cross training can be so important, like you said. And like my son does tennis and basketball just to kind of, you know, mix it up a little bit. And I, I wonder if that is something to it because you're right. The schedule's not that grueling. It's so yeah, I don't know. Jeff, what do you think? So I want to shift gears again. What do you think kind of is the next step then for Unrivaled? I mean, you talked about building rivalries, divisions, but what's another thing that they could do, like I don't know, TV wise, presentation wise, something like that to really hit that next plateau?
I think they're already doing it, man. When I was at the Barclays, I watched those intros. I thought Jay Uso was coming out. They walking through the crowd. They got theme songs. They've taken beats from different forms of entertainment and they've injected it into Unrivaled. So I think it's just growing the stage, putting them on a much bigger stage, um, and elevating the presentation more. That means going into arenas, uh, updating the courts, updating the sidelines, making it something really unique. I think presentation can always be elevated, but playing these games in arenas is self-elevation. It already feels bigger. Like I watched back those semifinal matchups that I watched in the Barclays live. It looks like you're watching two different games in the Barclays and in Philly versus watching it in the studio in Miami. It just you can feel the crowd, you can hear the noise, you can see the energy popping off your screen. So I think they're going to have to elevate the presentation in Miami to that level to where you can feel it. Maybe there's a leeway to grow that space so that you could get more people in there or go somewhere else, like go to whatever they're calling the Heat Arena, Kaseya Center or whatever they're calling the Heat Arena now, right? Go in there and make it happen. I think that's one. I think two, get some more big names. There's a few big fish still out there. Work with the top college players to have like a college to Unrivaled pipeline. Like, yeah, we know you're going to the WNBA, but we got a spot for you on Unrivaled too.
Yeah, you imagine Juju Watkins popping over to Unrivaled.
Listen, man, it's
Yeah.
not if, it's when.
Yeah, totally. And piggybacking off Alan's point, I notice just with Unrivaled, it's the trend of other women's basketball leagues with Athletes Unlimited and even Project B, which we really don't know what that's going to be. But do you think there's a risk of it kind of fragmenting the market when there's all these other alternative leagues? I mean, it's great in terms of opportunities, but when there's so many alternative leagues to the W and the talent might be fragmented, I'm just wondering how well is that ultimately going to be just for the game growing when if Project B does become actually a league and you have Athletes Unlimited along with Unrivaled, is that the most healthiest thing for women's basketball is to have kind of your talent spread out on the off season instead of concentrated in one alternative league like Unrivaled?
Yeah, I mean, first off, the market's already fragmented. There's a whole league in China. There's a league in Russia. There's Eurobasket. The talent is there, and they've been playing all over the world. We're just not privy to it because there's not a US distribution deal for broadcast or even for streaming, right? Like, you can find it if you want to, but for the average consumer, they're not going to be able to find it. Also, competition. I've been told for years, competition is best for business, right? So I don't think more of women's hoops is necessarily a bad thing. I think if they're able to run their seasons to where they're not competing head to head with each other, then everybody can really eat. Everybody can grow and everybody can eat. Now, I don't know how Project B is going to do that because WNBA runs from like May to September. Unrivaled runs from the end of the year to February. So unless you're doing like from March or April right before the WNBA season, that's probably the pocket. Then you got to ask yourself, if you are a Project B player, are you trying to play in a professional league that close to the WNBA season? You know, these are the logistics that they're going to have to figure out, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think you're going to get some players who play in Project B, some players who play in Unrivaled. You even see it now. There are WNBA players who are playing in China now and opted to go play in the Chinese leagues and get their bread over there. So I think you're going to have enough talent rotating in and out of these non-WNBA leagues and competitions, because at the end of the day, and this is especially great for them, they can name their price. And the money's doing all the talking. So may the best price win, right? May the best offer win. So I think it'll create a healthy ecosystem for women's hoops. And ultimately, the investors and the fans are going to dictate what succeeds and what doesn't. If there's enough broadcast deals, ad revenue, and arenas and all of that to go around, everybody's going to thrive. Eventually, it may be dog eat dog out there. I mean, it is in general. But I do think as of now, it's a beautiful thing to witness women's basketball growing to the point where we could be talking about 3 domestic leagues running concurrently with all this talent.
That's true. Go ahead, Alan, if you have another question.
Yeah, I was gonna point out too, like even the advertising revenue for the players is up there. I mean, I can't imagine, when the W started 30 years ago, having commercials for any of the star players, and now we see star players in commercials all the time. So it's definitely, you're seeing like that zeitgeist grow, and people becoming fans of the sport. It's just interesting to see that growth happen, because it seemed like it contracted a little bit in the mid 2008 2009. It kind of, it didn't seem like there's a lot of interest, and it felt like, you know you couldn't imagine 3 leagues at that time, much less I mean, one was going to be a challenge. So I just think it's just interesting to see. And I think, I don't know, what do you think that, we'll see some uh kind of ad revenue and that sort of thing with Unrivaled, and with players wearing their Unrivaled jerseys as opposed to their W personas?
I mean, they better. If they want to pay these players and they want to increase revenue and all of that, I think that's the next logical step. It's just a matter of how they're going to execute it. Because especially in a league with Unrivaled, where the players are supposed to be in control and part owners, and they have established equity in the league, that revenue sharing and how we're splitting it up is going to be vital to whether or not future players are going to want to invest. So yeah, they better get it rocking. I'll tell you that much.
Jeff, final question for you real quick.
Yes, sir.
What are you looking for? It seems like WNBA and the CBA negotiations, that's going to go through. We're going to have a season that's not going to be disrupted. Anything, I know a bunch of players are free agents. We really don't know too much just because we got 2 new teams. The league could be completely different, but is anything that's kind of catching your eye early on as we approach the beginning of a new season of WNBA?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. It's this free agents. The names of free agents, it feels like they're doing an unrivaled draft in WNBA. And all the big names. And they are so intelligent to cleverly make sure that everybody's contract was ending this season so that they could take advantage of a new CBA and an increase in max salary and an increase in the minimum salary. Chef kiss, 10 out of 10. No notes. I have absolutely no notes. So I'm waiting to see these ladies get paid, and if there's going to be some defections to whether it's established teams or some of the newcomers. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, totally agree. Jeff, thank you very much for spending the time. Truly appreciate it. Can you let our audience know where you're located on social media, any upcoming projects you're working on, and anything else you want our audience to be aware of as well?
Yeah, for sure. Jeff J Says on all social media. Jeff J Says on YouTube as well. If you're into the NBA, I host a weekly pod on the NBA called NBA Takedown. That's the YouTube channel where you can find it. And if you're Knicks fans, Knicks haters, or just lover of basketball conversations, you could tap into Knicks Film School, KFS After School. Me and my guy Sean with a W. We talk about the week in Knicks, what was and what is on the horizon. We go through social commentary, social media commentary, the news of the day, and everything in between. Also on my social pages, I do a recap to every single Knicks game. It's called the Baca Breakdown. And I talk about the league at large as well, along with the world in pop culture. So there's a little bit of everything for all of y'all to tap into. Also, if you're a fan of the shows in the Power universe, me and my co-host Chrissy Bree, we have the greatest podcast in the history of Power After Hours. We'll be back in June as Raising Kanan drops its final season, and we'll be there every week to review and recap those episodes. So got my hands in multiple cookie jars, bro. Multiple cookie jars. So I think whatever your interest, you can find great conversation on my pages and the various platforms that I inhabit. So looking forward to seeing y'all.
Awesome. Thanks again, Jeff, for your insight. Truly appreciate it. And good luck with the Knicks.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate
an interesting
you.
Playoff stretch.
And Alabama, be very afraid. You seen what's happened. You seen what's happened. Nobody is safe. And Hofstra University is coming to Tampa to break some hearts.
And they lost their number 1 player. So
amen.
They are.
Listen, you don't gotta beat them 4 out of 7. You gotta beat them 1 out of 1. That's what it is. One shining moment. That's all you need.
That's true. Yep. That's what it's all about, especially in March. Anything can happen. That's true. Appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
bro. I appreciate it.